recording and in progress. Preliminary matter. I am John Jeffries, Chair of the Board of Selectmen. Robin Hunter and David Haviland are here. Ask them to identify themselves.
Present. Robin Hunter.
Dave Haviland also present.
Reminding everybody that the meeting is being conducted remotely via the Zoom, consistent with Governor Healy's orders of last March. Individuals wishing to participate may do so utilizing Zoom video conferencing technology. We remind everyone that the meeting is being recorded live and will be shared via Facebook and broadcast on Dover Cable Television. Please make sure you don't share your screen. Remind everyone what we are viewing can be captured and shared. We are all present. The meeting is underway. Michael Blanchard is here. Chris Costello is here. Dick Malcolm from the building committee. And Al is here. Al, how are you?
Well, thank you. How you doing?
Am I going to get to see you again tomorrow morning at 9:30?
Yes, you are.
Wow. Oh, you must. You've got to get tired of, well, I know you gotta put up with Dick and Ford and everybody, and just adding me to the mix. Oh, you're a good man for doing all this. So, Chris, do we have any citizens' comments? Is there anything that anybody we need to recognize prior to getting started?
No, I think we're all good.
Okay. The first item of business this afternoon is a discussion and a vote regarding the approval of the community center project change orders. Project change order 16 changes the exterior siding ceiling per ASI 007. The amount is $42,034.67, and project change order 39 concrete curbs around FP. What's FP, Al? What is that?
Sure. It's I copied the title right from the contractor's wording. So FP stands for fire protection.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Fire protection. The RFI request for information 045. The amount is $4,742.67. Dick Malcolm from the building committee is here. Hello, Dick. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, John.
Thank you for being here. Dick, if you wouldn't mind just giving a little bit of insight to the exterior siding and ceiling, that's the $42,000 item. I think that might be helpful.
I'm sure. This is this came about from the commissioning agent, who essentially is a company that the town hired to make sure that the building is as weathertight as it can be, offers suggestions on insulation improvements, air infiltration. And then they also do a lot of testing to make sure that the work is done properly to prevent against air leaks and air infiltration. In other words, making the building as tight as possible. The design team, they basically, when they put the bid documents out, they put a basis of design in from which the contractor has submitted a bid for. The commissioning agent was not involved at that point in the project, nor is the commissioning agent normally involved in that stage of the project. So we got the bids back. We have our contractor on board, and then through the process of submittals from the contractor, as well as suggestions from the commissioning agent, that's what this PCO 16 basically entails and covers and costs. And for detail on it, I'm going to actually turn that one over to Al.
Thank you, Dick. I think you covered pretty much everything that I also had on my notes here. Yeah, like Dick said, this because this includes, and the word siding and ceilings may be a little bit misleading. Again, this is the wording that the contractor uses. Really, these are changes to the building's exterior wall and roof assemblies. And because it's basically the entire assembly, this includes a number of subcontractors that are involved in this change. That includes waterproofing, insulation, framing, and roofing subcontractors. What I wanted to do is essentially scroll through, and this was heavily vetted by the design team, by myself, and as well as the building committee. And what I wanted to do is just basically scroll through what the architects' markups were on this thing, so that you get an idea of the level of scrutiny that this PCO received. If you can all see my screen.
Can
Can
you
you make it a
make it
little bit
larger?
bigger? Right.
Yep, I can definitely zoom in. I'm just gonna scroll through, and we can get into the details as we need to. But as you can see, just the different colors. This is the architect going through it and highlighting what are going to be changes versus what is scope that was owned before. Essentially going through this data, going through this thing in detail to ensure that the costs are justified. So again, this is all the architect's notes on this thing, going detail by detail on the different assemblies for the project. And you can just see that the level of notes that they included here.
So Ellen, would you mind if I just ask some questions while you?
Of course.
Okay. So, I recognize that the building, for all intents and purposes, this building was designed 3 or 4 years ago, right? And in the 3 or 4 years, I know from the pain of my own home renovation that some of the some things at first were a nice to have, suddenly became more of a need to have items to make the building envelope more weather tight. So I know for my own home, that was something that we ran into. And over time, when you did the cost benefit analysis, it was going to save you on utilities, because the tighter the building envelope, the better off you are in the long run. So what I was trying to just understand a little bit was, like, these, from an environmental standpoint, these items make 100% sense to me. And in the long run, the payback is, I want to get the tightest building envelope that I can. But are some of these things, now that we're seeing them, because you ask yourself the question, should this have been included in the original design or not? So the question is, and I realize it would have just made the design $42,000 more. But is this more of a current building trend than it was 4 years ago when we actually designed the building? Is that why it's coming up now?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think that's part of it. Now, the original design that the contractor bid on, it was code compliant, and it worked.
Right.
Now we, as part of this project, just given the the scale of the project, we have the town engaged or retained a very well-known and reputable third-party building envelope commissioning agent. Now, this is all they do. All they do every day is to look at building assembly details, and they understand what are the current best practices.
Right.
And so as part of their services, they go to the architect's plans and they're like, hey, and again, these details work the way they were, but they're just, with the feedback of, somebody who's, this is their specialty. These are things that will make these assemblies and the building just that much more efficient, better performing, and longer lasting. And so that's probably part of it. It's, there's probably, just better ways of doing things now that perhaps 4 years ago, I don't know exactly, which ones. I can't point to exactly which ones, but just knowing that we have these very reputable, their name is Thrive, very well known, especially in the public sector, and knowing that you're getting something that it's essentially the best assembly that you could have. I think it's a good exercise.
Okay.
Dave, questions?
I guess I still would like to know where the architect was and where Colliers was, that we now have to have a third firm come in after the fact and discover that we did not indeed have best practices. And once again, I disagree on who needs to pay for this, not that the action is needed. But I would like to know why our architect did not spec this originally and why Colliers did not ask for this originally.
Yeah, I can talk to that a little bit.
Al, excuse me, before you answer that question, I apologize. I feel like I just want to frame what Dave is asking in the context for people who are not on this call today, but may watch this in the future. And I probably should have mentioned this in the introduction of everybody, but we've been on so many meetings, it sort
We
of
forget.
we
You do
forget. But so for the people who are watching this from at another time, or maybe watching this months from now, Al Estevez is from Colliers, and Colliers is the town of Dover's project management team. They are the owners, managers, representative in this whole process. So and again, I apologize for this interruption, but I felt it was important in the context of Dave asking Al this question. Does that make sense to everyone?
Sure.
Thank you,
Okay.
John.
I'm sorry. So Al, if you would could answer Dave's question.
Sure. Thank you, John, for that. And I think Dick, you touched on this earlier. So, we don't. So the reason why we don't typically have a full-on peer review of the architect's drawings before going into bidding, because at that point we're not sure what the price is going to come at. We don't know if we're going to have a project. We don't know the level of potentially value engineering that would need to be done to get to a price that is workable. And so we don't typically, while we start that process to retain a third party, that includes the commissioning agent as well, the building envelope commissioning agent, as well as the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing commissioning agent. We have that consultant in this project as well. We start the process of retaining them before bidding, but we don't necessarily get them involved in the peer review because, again, we don't know where the price is going to come at. We don't know what type of value engineering we're going to need to do on the project. And this project is a good example where, we went into bidding and, unfortunately the price came too high and we went through the, a VE and rebidding process. And that's the reason why we don't typically include these engineers. And so there's usually an understanding that's what contingency is for. So we set up a contingency that's a certain percentage of the contract price to ensure that we can cover changes like this that we know would come up during construction.
Al, with all due respect, I thank you for your answer, but that is a non-answer in my mind. And I say that because where was the architect? Are you saying that the architect on purpose gave us a spec that met code but was not best practices? Did Collier agree to this? Again, I want to know why the town of Dover has to spend this 42 plus 4 when indeed it looks like others should have picked this up much earlier and others should be paying for it because we just have the checkbook. And every time you say, well, this is what the contingency is for, please know that is just going to rub me the wrong way. That is not what the contingency is for, not when other people are making mistakes and we're being asked to pay for them. I'm speaking my mind. I think you know how I'm going to vote on this. We can get off it, but this is absolutely unacceptable to me that other firms who should have known about this, who should have been giving us the proper specs to begin with, now we're stuck with another $42,000. I don't buy it.
So Dave, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, the building was done up to code. The building is still up to code.
Oh, I said it was up to
Without
code,
the
but up
40
to code doesn't mean best practices, Robin.
Right, but without the 42,000 and so you don't have to do this. You know, it's one of those things that there will be a long-term payback, but you don't have to do it. And the building is still in compliance and probably close to best practices.
Again, I think
But I
we
don't
should
know
have
if
the
I'm-
change. I just don't believe that we should be paying for it. And, you know, to let others on this call know, you're going to need to go back and listen to the other phone calls, but I'm referring specifically to what Nina said before, and that is, this is just the way things work, and yet I'm still being asked to approve it. So I'm just going to let everyone know right now that I did not review that contract. I did not have input into that contract. And I have a very different view on contingency and who's responsible for paying it. A very different view. And if you're going to come back and say, well, this is what contingency is for, and that's your main reason for excusing the architects and colliers, then you're not going to get a yes vote out of me. So we can move on because there's two other selectmen here. But I'm letting everyone know for posterity why I'm voting no against these, because I do not believe that the town of Dover should be writing the check for other people's errors and omissions. And
I
that's how I
don't
do
think
this.
this was, I think, Dave, this is where I disagree with you. This was not an error. You know, they designed the building based, you know, so that it was compliant. We got in a specialist who said, I would recommend that you do X, Y, Z, or do this $42,000 worth of work to make your building envelope tighter than it is today. So, you know, again, that's why I asked the question. In 4 years, because I can tell you in the 18 months that we've been renovating our house, things have changed, you know, and there's more than we're doing. So,
We
you
talked
know,
about
the
that
way I
last meeting
view
with
this
Tech.
is it's up to us to decide whether or not we want to spend the additional $42,000 to have a tighter building envelope. I don't view this as an error.
I view it as an omission, and it should have been included. You know, let's remember where we started, 13 million for this project, and we're now well more than double that. And this is how we got there. And it's sub quality bids going in, and that's just, oh, well, we'll just take it out of contingency. I'm sorry, I just don't buy it. We can move on. We're all going to have our own votes. We're all going to have our own opinions,
Hey,
but I'm just
there's
saying,
a
I
couple
don't
of
buy this.
Right, but there's a couple of statements that you're making that rub me the wrong way. It was 13 million
Yeah.
based upon an assessor putting together an estimated cost. We all know very well that as a result of COVID, pricing, supply chain made things much more expensive. So a significant part of this increase in cost is just because of the economic climate. And we looked long and hard as to, do we wait? Do we not move forward? What should we do? And at the end of the day, the town wanted this building and they voted for that big price increase. You know, and we spelt it out for the town. So, you know, that increase is very different from now presenting this change order, in my mind. They are two very different things.
I'll take that just one step further, and then I'm going to come back to Al. Dave, I'll take it one step further than Robin. We said no. When the price doubled, we had the ability to go forward with the $24 million price of after, as Rob had just described, and we said no. We demanded it go back to town meeting, that the selectmen were not going to go back to the town and say, we just unilaterally decided to go ahead with this project when it went up significantly in price from 14 million to 23 million or 24 million, whatever the number was. Al, what will the impact be on the the process and the building, if we do in fact say no? What, and Al, if Dick, you're the right person to answer this question, please take it. But what is the impact on the building, on the process, if in fact we say we vote no to these change orders?
They're currently working on the exterior framing as we speak, and so we don't necessarily have a lot of time to, if we are gonna implement these changes, we don't have a lot of time to wait on this. And I would have to review with the architect the implications of not having this change order approved in terms of the building. My understanding is that everything was designed out to code and it worked, but this is at the end of the day, and it's a betterment to the town, and it's what's best practices currently at this point, coming from the experts that do this day in, day out. I would have to check with the architect and also the construction team what the implications would be of not going forward with this move, but we don't have a lot of time in terms of schedule.
Again, I look at it as, yes, we should have these changes. It's just the difference of opinion is who should be paying for them.
Yeah, and just to add, the opportunity for these betterments exists now, and that's why the decision needs to be made now. Otherwise, that betterment, the opportunity disappears.
Appreciate
It feels
that.
it's very hard to argue with the logic of going with something that's better. It's a very uncomfortable position to be in, as Dave has articulated, when we're in this spot and our builders, our contractors, our building committee, and our owner's representative is saying to us, we're in a tight spot. We've got to continue this. We don't want to fall further behind. I don't think anybody wants us to fall further behind. And yet we are also given the responsibility to be the steward of our taxpayers' money. And it's a very difficult position. So Al, when you come to us, please, you got to have the other side of this. If we say no, what's it going to mean to the process and the development of the building? Because in the moment, right here, right now, I feel like if I say no, we fall further behind. And there's another series of dominoes that will cost us more than $47,000 than we're being asked to give you more today. So I feel like if we say no and we have to delay this, it's going to cost us more than the $47,000. David, do you understand that, Dave Haviland?
Yes, I mean, and again, I think the work definitely should be done. We want the best building and envelope that we can get. There's no doubt about it. I just don't believe that the town of Dover's contingency fund should be the people responsible for paying that bill. Similarly,
and
it's a much smaller number. It's only 1/10. But out of all things, the concrete curb around the generator, after all the kerfluffle with the neighbors, now we got to do this. So
yeah,
we don't need to debate it for my edification. I have said my piece. I do not believe the town of Dover should be paying for these. We need to keep the project moving forward. So I'm assuming there's going to be 2 yes votes, but coming in the stage where I've come in, looking at what I'm looking at, and being asked to do what I'm being asked to do, in good conscience, I cannot vote for these. So I'm not going to.
I respect that, and it's well articulated from your perspective. The position I think we're in is, if we delay, it falls further behind. And I think that what we have been told from Nina, what we have been told from what I listen to and what Dick Malcolm listens to on a weekly basis, is we cannot afford to fall behind. And I don't like that position. I don't like that position because it feels like you literally have a gun to your head and you have to move these things forward with regardless of the price. And it's not a comfortable position to be in. So
In the
I agree,
meantime,
Dave, with
we have
what
yet
you're
to
saying,
get an
but
answer from the general contractor on their request for a multi-month delay. And we don't know when they're going to finish this project because they haven't told us. And we know that the daily penalty is $1,500, but that's $45,000 in a month. And we're being asked to approve that in a change order right here. In the
yeah,
grand
and it's
scheme of
about,
things, the penalty of the contract is peanuts to the contractor, and they're just going to do whatever they're going to do in the envelope that they're going to do it. And you know, when are we going to get the building? Has anyone updated that, Al or Dick?
no, no,
Uh,
no,
well, we did get an updated schedule from the contractor on Monday that was presented to the building committee, and it's something that we're very much working with town legal counsel on.
So, you know, here we are, rush, 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 and Lord knows when they're going to deliver. And so I hear your point, John. I am personally, it's not the time element that is bothering me. It is the who should be paying for this element that is really bothering me. And I just don't believe that the town of Dover's contingency fund for this building project should be covering everyone else's issues. And you know, I chose issue on purpose because whether it's an error, an omission, something that was perfectly legitimate that everyone just forgot, you have all these referrums reviewing this stuff and it gets brought to our plate. And as you say, John, now we have literally one meeting, couple of days, make up your mind, vote yay or nay, and we move on.
yeah. Al, I hope you feel and hear the frustration in all of our voices because it's a very, very difficult position to be in.
Yeah, John, and if earlier when I was asked a question about the implications of not approving this, I did not mean to say that if this doesn't get approved, the project is going to fall behind schedule. Like that's not at all what's going to happen. If this doesn't get approved, we're going to continue with the documents and the bid documents. The contractor is not asking for additional time to do this $42,000 worth of work. Like that is not part of the change order. However, we don't have a lot of time to make this decision. It's not that if we don't do this, the project is going to fall behind schedule, and then we're going to look at a cost of, potentially more money. That's not at all the case. So if that's what was understood, then my apologies on that.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. So let me just ask the question: if we do not approve this, what is the impact? We are omitting, we're not adding these, we're just not adding the siding, or is the siding going to be a different type? What physically happens?
Yeah, so it's not like an aesthetic. It's not the finishing system per se. It's the assembly itself and how it's put together. So I will give you just an example. So looking at these two details here, this is the light monitor. This is above the pavilion where it's essentially like a skylight where we're bringing natural light into that space. The contract, so these are the revised documents based on the recommendations by our building envelope commissioning agent. The design drawings show the ceiling structure. It's a cross-laminated timber coming out and essentially creating this soffit. Per the recommendations, it's like, hey, that could be a thermal bridge. I mean, a thermal bridge, it's essentially when you are dealing with heat loss during the winter time, and vice versa, heat gain during the summertime, which is not what you want. So this detail will make the building more energy efficient. And so like that's one example. So it's the assembly itself. It's not necessarily the exterior finishing system. And that's why I said that, the fact that this says siding and ceilings is not necessarily, it's a little bit misleading. It's the assembly itself, how the waterproofing, and the flashing is tied together, how you deal with this, thermal places where you could potentially have some thermal bridging. It's the assembly itself.
Mr. Chairman, Dick's had his hand up. patiently for a long time. I don't know if you
Thank
would.
you. Go ahead, Dick, go ahead. Thank you. My apologies. I've been reading and looking at what Al was, go ahead, Dick.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. No, I just want to reiterate that this is a betterment. The building was designed per code. We have an opportunity to increase how tight this building is. It's not, I don't think of this as a mistake or an error or omission. If these items had been included in the contract documents, then the town would be paying for them anyways. So the delta really, if you're looking to put blame or take it out of somebody's hide, you're really only looking at the markups that are incurred by the contractor. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
To add to that, this cost is not all like $42,000. This is not going to the contractor. This is mostly going to the subcontractors that are doing this work, which again, you got the spray foam insulation, you have the roofing subcontractor, gypsum, you have rough carpentry subcontractor. So there's a number of different subcontractors that are essentially, that's where the money's going and who's getting paid. This is not going to the general contractor.
I understand that. And Al, I have in our general Board of Selectmen meeting, I have tried to articulate this to Robin and to David many times, how much detail we go into on Tuesday mornings, how much detail Dick, Malcolm, and Ford and the committee go into, and there's a lot. There's just a lot of detail in these items, and so I've tried to share that. It just it's hard. These visuals that you've shown are helpful. The number of people and the number of markups and requests for information that you've shown in conjunction with this is helpful. So, Robin, do you have anything else to add? I think we're at the point where we should make a motion. Robin, anything? Nothing?
I don't.
Dave, anything else you would like to add?
No, thank you.
So, Al, I need my screen back. I just want.
How do you not have your screen, John?
Well, Al shared the screen and I was trying to read the motion.
Oh,
I was gonna go to the motion. So I'm gonna go to the motion. I'm
see, if you were
moved to
like me, you
approve.
would have 17 documents open and then you try and figure out where it is.
If I were only like you, Robin,
It's a
that's
very
just
bad
one
habit, John. It's horrible. I have to fix it.
one of those things. That's an eternal mystery, if we were only like Robin. God, okay. I move to approve the change orders. PCO change order 16, exterior siding ceilings per ASI 007 in the amount of $42,034.67 and ask for a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye, John Jeffries.
Aye, Robin Hunter.
Nay, Dave Haviland.
And for the motion on change order 39, concrete curb around the fire protection per request for information -045 in the amount of $4,742.67. I move to approve that and ask for a second.
Second, but did we discuss this? Do we need to discuss this one for those listening or?
Probably
We
a good
didn't.
idea, just
Probably
so.
a good idea.
Yeah.
We did not discuss that.
3 minutes, ready, go.
Okay.
L, 3 minutes.
Sure.
So,
So PCO 39, basically what this is, this captures the cost associated with a new 8-inch round concrete curb. It's around 7 foot long. That's needed at the fire protection tank in order to support a slab that's about 3,500 pounds, and that needs to support the fire pump. The fire protection system on this project is a custom system, given that the town of Dover does not have sufficient capacity within the main lines. We needed a custom fire protection system. During design, exactly what that system was going to look like, what's unknown. The architects, they put together their best guess as to what the system is. We also didn't know what manufacturer the contractor was going to go with. This is a non-proprietary system, and so once we received the submittals, basically the product information, this is when we determine, hey, we need additional structural support here. And that's what the cost is for.
Okay, so basically, when we went out to bid, it included generic specs for a fire suppression system. And we selected it after, bidding out with subcontractors. And so the generic specs didn't really fit with the ultimate system that we will.
Yeah, and that's typical. That's typical in the specs. It's typically the architect would stipulate a number of approved manufacturers, and we don't know exactly what manufacturer the contractor is going to go with. That's just for procurement law, they need to have that. And then once we get the contractor selects a manufacturer and we get the information, it's not uncommon for there to be some change. Again, the architect, they do their best job at trying to capture what all the manufacturers are going to need, but it's not uncommon to see changes once you get into construction.
Okay, got it.
And is there ever a place in the process where the contractor gets to pick a piece of equipment that's going to cost us another $4,800 to put in? And is that ever factored into anyone's decision-making process, or do they just get to stick us with another bill?
The contractor, so as Al said, it's the design team has a basis of design, and the way this works in public bidding, not everything is specified to the T. Then the contractor puts their numbers together. They're bound to those numbers, and through the submittal process, it gets defined what actually has to happen, and that's what drives, for instance, this extra.
So, Dick, when you add things like this, and obviously it's for a slab to support a fire protection pump. So hypothetically, we say, no, we're not doing this. And then what happens to the fire protection pump? What does it sit on? Like, what's similar to my question the last time? What's the plan B? What happens if we say no? Where does it go? And is there liability? If we don't put the slab, and the slab it's not sitting on what the change people suggested, are we responsible for having the pump on something less than what you're recommending?
Through the process of the submittals and defining what the pump is, and all the machinations of this whole pump system for these underground water storage tanks, it becomes apparent that you need more of a reinforced cover that this pump sits on, which is what this is about, which drives this extra. Question: if you say no, then that kind of puts everything at square one, because you need this reinforced slab in order to support this pump, in order to operate the underground storage tanks to put out a fire in an emergency. So unlike the last PCO we were discussing as a betterment, this falls into a little different category.
I feel that I understand the explanation, Dick, where I feel it's exactly the same as the betterment in the fact that we don't have time to say no. And we don't really have, in this case, there's no plan B in front of us. If we say no, then as you just said, you go back to the drawing board. The architect goes back and comes back with something that's time and materials. So it just is incredibly uncomfortable to be in this situation where our building committee and our owner's representative is saying we need, as Dave Haviland said, it's a death by 1,000 cuts. It's always where we haven't said no to a single one of these, and there just doesn't seem to be a viable option to say no to any of them. That's my frustration.
Yeah,
Anything?
understood. And that's what, that's what contingency is all about.
Robin,
Again,
would you like to add anything?
Yeah, my
No.
only issue is not that this would be nice to have and would make the building better. It's just who would be best responsible to pay for it. And it just seems to me that we're going to the easy. Oh, there's a contingency over there that the town has, and that's what we're going to tap. And we're not willing to push back on the architect. We're not willing to push back on the builder. We're not willing to push back on Colliers. We're not willing to push back on that other firm that came up with these improvements. We're not willing to push back. It's like, well, here's a bill, probably not even yours to pay, but pay it anyway.
I don't think it's to categorize it as being unwilling. I am certainly willing to push back. I feel it's a matter of what is in everyone's best interest, and is pushing back at this stage the right time, and will it yield the right result? That's the part, Dave, that I just struggle with. And it's been reading the contract and reading the contract and reading the contract. There's no relief in reading the contract that says pushing back at this time is a good idea.
Well, worse than that, I too read the contract and went through and came up with totally viable issues and options. And Nina said, Dave, you're absolutely right. But this is my business and we don't use those options. So why they're in the contract is beyond me. But that answer sat very poorly with me. And
Me too.
you're going to hear me get more and more vocal as these come back. And it's not the fact that we should have them done. It's who should legitimately be paying for them. That is my issue. And
Right, and I think Nina made it absolutely clear. If you want to fight this fight, we delay the building. It's going to litigation. The building will sit there and we may or may not win. And
there
so
is a
because
process in the contract, Robin, which allows us to approve this, but not agree to the cost. And then that does not go to court. It goes to arbitration and gets figured out without the pressure of time.
But that's what I got from what Nina said, that in practice, that's not how it works. So,
Then why did
I
we
knew
11
all
pages?
along that we would need to spend some of this contingency for these things.
There are legitimate uses of contingency, and then there are asks with mistakes of others to come out of the contingency. If it is basically something that is unforeseen or what have you, look, as John pointed out, we said yes to 500,000 of these things so far. Today we'll make 600.
Right.
The public should know that this isn't just 4,000 here and 40,000 there. We're talking about hundreds of thousands on our way to over $1 million. It's a lot of money.
And we were upfront all along. As a matter of fact, we added to the contingency because we felt very uncomfortable with the 1910 building. and the things we did not know. So we actually, as part of the process, we added to it, and we were completely transparent to the town when we added to it. You know, we also said that we would do our best to make sure that anything charged against the contingency was vetted. And I believe that is our fiduciary responsibility and that we're doing it. You know, it's a fine line. Construction goes over budget. And that's why we have a fixed cost contract, and that's why we have the contingency. So with PC, you know, with number 16, you can elect not to do it. Nothing would happen. We could vote not to do the curb, the concrete curb.
But the concrete curb has a lot more structural process from what I understand than
No,
certainly the siding change orders.
Right. I mean, the siding change order, it's not siding, it's the
The soffits. A different
the
envelope.
installation. Right. It makes the building envelope, which over the life of the building, we will save more than $42,000. Because if you have a building that isn't retaining heat or in the winter, but retaining heat in the summer, it's going to cost you more to cool and more to heat.
Understood.
Right.
Any other discussion with regards to this? Any other comments, Dick or Al, with regards to the concrete curb?
If I could just add something. So on every construction, and I by no means do I believe that the architect made a mistake on either one of these PCOs, that this is like an errors and omissions. However, one thing that I want to note is that mistakes are going to happen on every single construction project. This is, to me, this is standard and typical. Like this happens, and we need a concrete curb, and the contractor does not own this, and they offered to get the concrete sub to give us a proposal for the cost. We believe that the proposal is fair and reasonable, and we're recommending to proceed with that cost. Now, in terms of going back to every project, there are going to be mistakes on every single project, and that is absolutely one of the reasons why we have a contingency. The architect, like lawyers and physicians, they work under a standard of care that basically says that an architect shall perform. And again, I by no means do I believe that there's an errors and omissions in these two PCOs. However, the standard of care says that architects shall perform its services in a manner that is ordinary in scale and care to other architects performing similar work in a similar location under similar circumstances. So there are going to be mistakes by the design team, and that is absolutely a reason why we have a contingency. Now, there are thresholds where, if now we're looking at too many errors, it can get to the point where it's egregious, and there are thresholds for that. We are nowhere near that threshold where we would say, hey, we need to have a discussion with the architect, or hey, there's too many errors and omissions. And again, these two here, these are not at all, I would not consider these errors and omissions. This is just typical coordination that happens on every construction project. But I'm just saying that, there are going to be mistakes on every project by the design team. And that is absolutely part of the reason why we have a contingency contractually.
Understood.
So, Elle, the hope was, and the assumption was, not only the hope, that over time there would be fewer and fewer of these change orders.
And that's the case. And if we go back and we look at the major change orders on this project, what are they related to? Unforeseen conditions and authority having jurisdiction. So like, inspections, the inspections process, those are by far the biggest change orders on this project. Everything else, it's very minimal or typical coordination things that happen on every project, but the dollar value is just, it's not a lot compared to unforeseen conditions, authority having jurisdictions, which again, they're both legitimate uses of the contingency, and another reason why we have a contingency. But just like that, it's also, there's going to be mistakes by the design team, which again, these two, I do not believe that that's part of that. But
What is the, Al, do you have in front of you what has been categorized as a mistake or an error and omission? It's used out of contingency?
I have it tracked, but again, so it's when I think for the um, I gotta go back and look at it. I am tracking those figures, but sometimes it's not as simple as like, hey, there's a change. So for example, there could be a change order that the town would have still have had to pay for if he was capturing the design, but there was something was omitted, right? That's an omissions. And so it's not the entire cost. It would just be the delta of the contractor's markup. And so I could go back and see what I'm tracking, but we are nowhere. I mean, once you get to like around 5% of the construction cost, which in this project is about $1 million, that's when we have a real conversation about, potentially going after the architects, errors and omissions, or professional liability insurance. That's about $1 million of, when we get to that level, right? So this is all typical and standard on any construction project.
But Al, to address Dick's question, we have been in the meetings where Tony and Eddie Tobin have said specifically, and they begin the explanation with, that mistake was on us. We own that. And specifically, the one I'm referring to was 2 weeks ago with the windows. And that is, that there have been, there have been items where the contractor made a mistake. And as it relates to conversations with subcontractors, which they're having every minute of every day, or scheduling of subcontractors, which they're having every minute of every day, there have been, it hasn't been like those things haven't happened. So there are items that we will have to address. There are items, I don't know what the financial number is, and I'm sure you'll be able to help us with that, because that's something where we are going to want to know, especially as we're only weeks away from the deadline of the building being done. We're literally weeks away. So we're going to be asking those questions often, and we're going to be expecting very clear answers.
Understood. And contractors' mistakes are treated different than design team's mistakes. So, yes, there have been mistakes done by the contractor, and that's been on them. The town has not paid for any mistakes that were done by the contractor.
No, but Dave asked the question a little while ago, is when the contractor makes the mistake, or when the contractor, what's the other side of the coin? What's the other part of this, where when we're being asked to make a change, we're being asked to do something for the betterment, but when there is something that should have been done that wasn't done, Dave's question was, when do they step in? When do we see they do something that is in our best interest? We haven't seen that yet. Dave, did I paraphrase that or summarize that correctly?
That is part of my concern. Yes, the cost of all of these always seems to come out of only one pocket of money, the town of Dover's. So it doesn't matter whether the contractor makes a mistake, or Colliers, or the architect, or anybody else. It always goes to, we'll take it out of Dover. And that is the essence of what really bothers me, is when, as John just said, when does the contractor step up and pay for things that they should have known, or they omitted, or they made a mistake?
The town hasn't paid for any mistakes or omissions from was made by the contractor, and that's been vetted, and that's why we've got Colliers on it, and FM has been very diligent about that as well.
And the
Any other discussion?
The contractor has certainly incurred costs for mistakes that they've made. But like Dick said, the town has not paid for those. We're only using contingency for legitimate uses that contingency is for, per the contract.
Any other discussion regarding number 39, the concrete curb around the fire protection system? None? I'm going to move to approve the concrete curb around the fire protection system and the cost of $4,742.67, and ask for a second.
Second,
All in favor? Aye, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Nay, Dave Haviland. And did I see that PCO 39, we ought to put a dollar limit on that?
Good point, Dave. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So the contractor's going back to this one because they need to adjust the subcontractor's markup. So this number is going to come down just a little bit. So if we could approve it as a not to exceed, I think that.
Oh, just amend that to say the motion should read not to exceed $4,742.67. Mona, are you good with that? Or
I
Mike?
am, John. Yes.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Michael, are we good?
Yes, no, that's just those two. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good. All right. Al and Dick, I don't think we need to belabor the point. You hear and feel our frustration. We are we're doing this. We're trying to do this in the best interest of everyone, and you can tell this is not a pleasant situation to be in, but we're trying to work through it.
Yeah, well, we're all looking out after the best interests of the town, so.
Thank you.
So what you
Al,
could
see
do is
tomorrow?
not bring any more of these to us.
Yeah. Simple.
That's very
Yeah,
simple, Dick.
very simple.
It's a small ask.
Al, I don't think you're looking forward to it, but I'll see you tomorrow at 9:30.
Thanks, Al. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Dick. I'm
Okay.
gonna make a motion to adjourn at
3:59.
3:59.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Dave Haviland.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Have a
Thanks.
good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.